All right. Hey, fourth grade, we are going to go ahead and learn about lesson 2 in math, which is rounding to estimate products. So what we are going to think about is what does estimating mean? And it's kind of in our title, but just to review, when we estimate something in math, we are rounding. So estimating is the same as rounding. So we can put estimate equals round. They mean the same thing. They're like synonyms, like we've been learning in reading. So if estimating means that we're going to round, whenever we are going through our lesson today and it asks us to estimate, we know automatically that we have to round the number before we solve. Let's kind of write that down. Always round before you solve. A lot of people think that you can just round your answer. Well, what was the point of estimating if you were going to go through all the hard work of solving first without rounding? So the problems that you're going to see today are very different compared to what we've been doing. And so you technically don't actually know how to solve these questions the way that they are. So that's also a good hint that you should round before you solve. You want your problem to look like yesterday's problem. An example of yesterday's problem would be something like, and you don't need to write this part down, but 3 times 300. So we would do 3 times 3, which is 9, and then bring over the 2 zeros to make our answer 900. So our problems should look like this whenever we are rounding. That means that we have to round to what's called the greatest place value. This is the part that you need to write down. Greatest place value is very important whenever we are going through rounding now. So we're not going to say round to the tens place, round to the hundreds place, round to the 10,000s place. You're going to round to the greatest place value. So the greatest place value is the biggest place value in the number you are rounding. So what that means is if I have a number like 467 and I say round to the greatest place value, that means I'm going to round to the hundreds place because the hundreds place is the biggest place value in the number I'm rounding. So if I was rounding this, I would find the place, look next door. 6 is 5 or more, so my 4 becomes a 5 and everything else becomes zeros. So 467 rounds to 500. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a few examples. A problem that you might see in a lesson like this would be 3 times, there we go, sorry. 3 times 267. Okay, so this is going to be our first example. 3 times 267. And when I'm looking at this problem, I automatically think this is the number that I need to round. Okay, so I'm going to leave 3 the same. I'm going to bring down my multiplication symbol, but now I have to round the number 267. So I have to go with the greatest place value, and that's where I'm rounding to. So basically, in this case, you're never going to have to look back to see, ooh, did I leave any digits behind? You're always going to have one regular digit, and then the rest of your digits will be zeros to the right. So that kind of helps make rounding a little bit simpler in this lesson. 267, I can think about this in terms of the song, or I can think about it in terms of just where the number falls on a number line. So 267 is between 200 and 300. And so I need to think, is it closer to 200 or closer to 300? If it's at that 250 mark, we bump it up to 300. If it's below 250, we bump it back down to 200. So in this case, 267 is closer to 300, so it rounds to 300. We can also think about the song, which is find the place, look next door, 5 or more, you raise the score. And so we're going to raise the score of the 2 to become a 3, and everything else becomes zeros because we look to the right, put zeros inside. Don't forget to watch that video to help refresh your memory on the song that we use for rounding. It's a fun one. It's one of my favorites. Let's do another example. What if we had a problem like 8 times 2,496? Okay, so if this is my problem, again, I'm going to keep the 8, bring down my multiplication symbol, but this number is the one that's nice and big, and then I have to focus on rounding. So 2,496, the 2 is in the greatest place value. So this number is either going to round to 2,000 or 3,000. It's really close to 2,500, but it's not quite there. So this 4 tells the 2 to stay a 2, and then the rest becomes zeros. So 2,496 rounds to 2,000. And then I can solve. Oh, I didn't solve over here. Well, I had already solved up here. 3 times 300 is 900. I think that's why I kind of skipped through that. But 8 times 2,000, I'm going to do 8 times 2, which is 16, and then put my 3 zeros on. Now I need to figure out where my comma goes. 1, 2, 3, scoop. And now I'm done. So that's my final answer. So if I was told to estimate the product of 8 times 2,496, 16,000 would be my answer. Okay, so there's only one more part to this lesson, and that is knowing the answer to this question. So we will be asked if the estimate, so if this answer is greater than or less than what the actual product would be. So if I type this in or I solve this problem as is, would this answer, the actual answer, be more, or would my estimate be more? So we're figuring out, is the estimate greater than or less than the actual answer? So I can show you real quick. 2,496 times 8. Now, we're not learning this yet, but I can kind of show you what I would do. And it looks like this one is the bigger one, right? So what I would say is that my estimate is less than the actual product. Less than the actual. Now, what I don't expect you to do this, so we need to figure out, well, what helps me to know if it's going to be less than or greater than what the actual product would be. So the way that I like to think about this is raise the score. So if when you're rounding, you raise the score. So if this had turned into a 3, then I would circle more. And then if I let it rest, which is what I did in this case, I circle less. And the reason I say circle is because you'll be told to circle the words greater than or the words less than. So that's where that comes from. So if I raise the score, I'd circle more. More is the same as greater. And then if I let it rest when I'm rounding, then I would circle less. So let's do one more example. I need a new piece of paper. I'm running out of room. So let's say I am solving 450 times 7. Okay, so I'm told to estimate the product. So instead of solving this and trying to figure that all out, I'm going to round 450 to the greatest place value. So find the place, look next door, 5 or more. Yes, so I raise the score, 4 becomes a 5. Look to the right, put zeros in sight. Bring down the rest of your problem, and I'm going to do 5 times 7, which is 35. Bring over the zeros. There's 2 of them. 1, 2, 3, scoop. And now I need to say, is it greater than? So is my estimate, is it greater than or less than the actual product? So what this would have equaled. So going back, okay, raise the score. I circle more. Let it rest. I would circle less. So in this case, when I solve this problem, I raise the score. So I raise the 4 to a 5. Raise the score, circle more. More means greater. So that is my answer. Okay, if I had let it rest, if maybe this was a 3 and the 4 stayed, then this answer, or my estimate would be less than what the actual product was. So notice when my estimated, or my rounded number is bigger than the original one, obviously my answer is going to be bigger than the actual answer would have been. So just for funsies, 450 times 7 would be 3,150. So this one, 3,500, is greater than 3,150. Okay, just to show you some proof of how that works. So raise a score, circle more, let it rest, circle less. Okay, so that is rounding to estimate products. Make sure you round your biggest number to the greatest place value before you multiply, so that you end up with a very easy problem to multiply out, just like we had on lesson 1's worksheet. Okay, and go ahead and head on over to that worksheet, do your best, and listen to that rounding song if you need any reminders of that. Okay, so I think I kind of had cut that off, so I'll leave that there just for a second and see you guys later. Bye.